In this video, I'm taking a look at the astrotec Volans in-ear monitor. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So we're here with the Volans from astrotec. Now this thing has a 10.5mm multi-layer biological diaphragm housed in a brass driver enclosure. Now, what does that mean exactly? Your guess is as good as mine. Obviously I have no idea what I'm talking about. You should stop watching the video right now. So these are coming in at around $329, and there are some very compelling alternatives in that price range. So this is going to be quite interesting. Let's get into it. Okay, so here is the case that comes with the Volans. It's a beautiful high quality Pelican style case. Really nice one. Obviously a little bit big for a pocket, but nonetheless very nice to have. And here we are, the astrotec Volans. Let's have a closer look at those. So here it is. Comes in two color variations. This is the mint green, and it also comes in a royal blue. I think this mint green looks fantastic. I think really gorgeous color. So obviously aluminium housings here. Really beautiful finish on them. In terms of size, this way they're reasonably small, but they do have a fair bit of depth to them due to the long nozzles. Those nozzles, I believe, are brass, by the way. And of course you've got your mesh cover there to protect, keep out earwax and other stuff like that. Mmcx connectors, and there is a single little vent at the base of the nozzle there. But overall this is a beautiful IM, really premium build, and they look and feel fantastic. As far as comfort goes, personally I find them really comfortable. And also, due to the extra length on these nozzles here, I'm actually able to use smaller ear tips than usual, which is a refreshing change. But those are the earpieces. Let's have a quick look at this cable now. And this is a beautiful cable, but what I really like about this is the miniaturized Mmcx connector housings. Now, these don't really affect the fit or the wear, or I don't think it would affect durability or anything like that, but it's just novel and very cool to see. It also kind of suggests to me that astrotec is thinking a little bit outside the box. They're not following the industry standards to a T. They're kind of, you know, willing to innovate, and I think that's worth noting. Anyway, the cable itself is really lightweight and it handles beautifully. It doesn't have microphonics or anything like that. It's got a right angled 3.5mm plug and a matching Y split with a little plastic chin slider there. So overall this is a very nice cable, and I think it's a good pairing. It's a good match up with the sort of premium Volans here. Okay, so let's talk about the sound of the Volans now, and I'll tell you right off the bat, these have a rather unorthodox tuning. It is basically very mid-range focused with a slightly attenuated bass and a very subdued treble. But breaking that down into more detail, starting with the bass is light in quantity, but it actually has a nice natural weight to it. Like the bass, the standalone sound of the bass is actually really good. It has decent amount of texture and definition. It's also reasonably fast for a warm dynamic driver bass, and it kind of has a nice note weight to the bass. But like I said, the quantity of the bass is kind of pulled back a bit. Now onto the mid-range, which is the sort of the Volans thing that it does. And when you are coming, or if you are coming from a more conventional earphone, you might at first think that the mid-range sounds a little bit veiled or congested. But as your ears get accustomed, you'll notice that the mid-range resolution is actually quite excellent, especially for a single driver IEM. But every sound and every instrument is kind of occupies its own space in the soundscape, and there isn't any significant blurring or smearing in the mid-range, so the resolution overall is very good. But what you will notice is the warmth of the mid-range. It is fairly warm, but it still sounds very natural, which is I think what Astrotec was probably going for. So these really bring vocals and certain instruments forward, like acoustic guitars, piano, notes of a piano and horns, things like that. Actually, the upper registers of pianos really kind of jump out from these more than some other instruments. But overall, the mid-range is, yeah, like I said, it's a little bit warm, but it's still quite detailed and articulate, and the resolution is very good. Now moving on to the treble, and the treble plays a really significant role in the overall sound characteristics of the Volans, and it's an interesting way that Astrotec has done it. The treble of the Volans here is kind of characterized by a series of peaks and valleys, and what that does, the end result of that is it kind of maintains a natural timbre of particularly mid-range things like the vocals and instruments like that, but at the same time it makes the sound extremely buttery and silky smooth, and also totally non-fatiguing in a treble sense. So if you are someone who is sensitive to treble, then these should be right up your alley because they are buttery smooth. But it does have some drawbacks as well. The clarity in the mid-range is not the best, and that's due mainly to that subdued treble. The extension in the treble is fairly mediocre as well, so it doesn't have a sparkly or energetic high end. I think that's what was intended for these, as like I keep saying, it's all about the mid-range with the Volans here. Okay, so now let's do a couple of quick comparisons, starting with the ugliest case I've seen in recent times, but it's a good quality case and it's functional, you know. But in here is the Shanling ME500 Platinum Edition, and this is probably one of the most underrated IEMs in this sort of mid-tier bracket of recent times. This is a fantastic earphone, but for some reason people just didn't show that much interest in it, and that's really disappointing. But anyway, how it compares to the Volans, first of all, it has more bass presence in the mid bass and sub bass extension and rumble. Definitely a more punchier sound with deeper impact in the bass. In terms of the mid range, you know, the ME500 here has a more conventional tuning, so it's kind of a light V shape, which means that the Volans in comparison has more forward mids and vocals. And when it comes to the treble, this is one of the things that I really love about the ME500 is its incredible treble extension, while at the same time not being overly bright or harsh. It is a little bit bright in the treble, but it's got that nice warm low end to counterbalance it. What these are really good at are micro detail retrieval. Surprisingly, I think they're actually class leading in their price range for a warm sounding IEM in terms of micro detail retrieval. These are just amazing, really good at that. But anyway, moving on. Here we have the main gird T. Now the main gird T here comes from a relatively new brand, at least new to me, coming out of China. This is a 7-driver hybrid unit, and it has 1 dynamic driver and 6 balanced armature drivers all stuffed into this shell. Extremely comfortable. Also has quite long nozzles, just like the Volans, and When it comes to sound signatures, the T here is much more linear. It has a leaner, lighter bass. Although it does have excellent sub-bass extension, the quantity of the bass is quite light, which means that the mid-range here is actually leaner and thinner than the Volans, which is warmer and sort of more richer mid-range. And of course, when it comes to treble, the T here is a lot brighter. It does have a little bit more detail retrieval, but the overall resolution, particularly in the mid-range, they're about on par, despite this being a single dynamic driver, this having 7 drivers in total. The Volans does a fantastic job in resolution. And finally, for our last comparison, one of my favorite IEMs, the Dunu DK2001. Now this one also has a more conventional tuning, slight V. I'd probably call this what some people call a W-shaped sound signature, because nothing is really recessed, everything is pushed a little bit forward. It's a very forward sounding IEM. So although it does have a weightier, punchier, more impactful bass than the Volans, it also at the same time has quite forward mids and vocals. Both of the mids on these are quite warm, but due to the Dunu's better treble extension and livelier treble, these have better mid-range clarity, or overall clarity I should say. And they also have very good resolution, which is, you know, these reasons are why it's one of my favorite IEMs in this price range. So there we have it, guys. That is the astrotec Volans. Now, these aren't going to appeal to everybody. This is sort of, in my opinion, sort of more targeted towards a niche audience who is looking specifically for a very mid-centric or mid-range focused sound. So, you know, vocals, mid-range instruments, these are for people who are willing to sacrifice a little bit of quantity in the bass and the treble in order to really lift that mid-range. And also, if you are extremely sensitive to treble, then you should definitely consider these, because these are one of the smoothest in terms of treble that you can find at the moment. It does give them a warmer, slightly darker presentation overall, but like I said, the overall quality and technicalities of the Volans is quite good. So what do you think, guys? Let me know in the comments if this kind of tuning and signature appeals to you, or how you feel about it. And that is it for this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a like, Parfam audiophile style. And if you're new here and want to see more reviews like this in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you later.